Hey guys, getting ready to unbox the Urtopia Chord. I've covered the carbon fiber model in the past. Very custom frame. This company has a really interesting computer interface, like an LED display. It's got like a SIM card that can help track with GPS here. So the Chord is aluminum alloy. It's a little bit heavier, but it's also more affordable. So this one's $19.99 versus $27.99, and this one comes in two different frame styles. So we've got the traditional high step that I'm going to be looking at. They also have a Chord X that has sort of a mid-step frame. It's a little bit more approachable. So I'm going to unbox this. I'm going to go through just the different trade-offs I see, take it for a ride. Okay, it's completely unboxed, and you can see there are several steps to take. We got the front wheel, the handlebar, kind of lining that stuff up, and then there's the rear light. This is the one that projects down onto the street. There's the smart bar display panel, a saddle and a seat post, kickstand, and then a little toolkit with the charger. Well, it sure is a beautiful bike once it's all assembled. Look at this thing. I'm really impressed, just the craftsmanship here, this sweeping like tail. Even down here, it reminds me of a classic car with the fins and stuff. Again, this is the high step Chord. It's about 19.5 inches in terms of sizing, and that is the seat tube length. Interesting, because the bottom bracket hangs down a little bit lower right here. We have this sloping down tube, very custom, internally routed cables. The standover height on this one is a little high. It's about 32 inches right here. And then with the saddle, you can drop it down pretty far, but you'll notice that this light that's sort of bolted onto the rails right here, you know, if you want to use that, you can only go down so far. So I'm estimating that the lowest minimum saddle height on this is going to be about 38 inches, and that is pretty tall. So I'm about 5'9", weigh 140 pounds. My inseam is like 31.5 inches. And this is set up decently for me, because you'll notice that once you get up on the pedals, that kind of raises your... I want to get full leg extension here, so I'm just about right. But if you're someone who's a little concerned about that, you've got hip sensitivity, and you're just trying to mount the bike, I would strongly consider the Chord X, and that's the one that's kind of a mid-step. I'm estimating that has about a 17.5 inch sizing, so that would be, again, the seat tube. And the standover height on that might be a little bit lower. Maybe it's like, 28 inches or something like that. I think you're still going to have a fairly high minimum saddle height, and you might be limited on swapping out this rigid seat post, which is 31.6 millimeter diameter, to get like a suspension post, because you won't have that hole drilled for running the cable through. And then a lot of times there's like a bulge here, and it might interfere with that rear light. So I feel like this ecosystem is beautiful, but you're sort of stuck with what they give you, okay, in terms of the saddle and the light and everything. And even at the handlebars, I noticed that it's all kind of welded together. We have a stem right here, and then it goes right into the handlebar. I can't rotate this down or forward. I can't change the stem length or stem angle. I couldn't even swap this handlebar for a cruiser bar or a flat bar if I wanted to. It's just, this is it. Now, I do like it. It sweeps back beautifully. It's got these faux leather grips, which I think could be swapped out. They are locking. And then we've got this Revo shift, half twist shifter thing going on with an optical window. Very intuitive. And then the hydraulic disc brakes are very nice too. These are Tektro 160 millimeter rotors with dual piston calipers. And that's a decent size for a bike like this. I keep thinking, because it looks so beautiful, like, oh, this must be super light. But I weighed it, and it's about 48.6 pounds. And I think it's supposed to come with fenders too. Mine did not have the fenders, and I actually think mine is a European spec, because if I look at the hub motor back here, it says 250 watt, and that's what they sell in Europe. The speed limit there is 15.5 miles per hour, 25 kilometers per hour. In North America, this would be spec'd with a 350 watt motor, and you'd go up to 32 kilometers per hour, 20 miles per hour. It is a class 1 electric bike, pedal assist only, and it's pretty advanced. It's using this torque sensor down here, as well as an accelerometer and a gyroscope. We've got 2 bottle cage mounts. I love that, because you can use one for a folding lock. They have a frame lock mounting position, so you could, if you've seen those Abus locks that they sort of slide a metal bar through the spokes so the wheel can't turn. You can mount that right here. It would have the fenders. There's even a rear rack that you can buy, so you could really turn this into a commuting platform if you wanted to. But I noticed the weight rating is only 26 pounds, whereas most racks I see are rated to 50 or 55 pounds. So it's probably not going to work for child carriers or really big trunk bags or panniers. And the battery position is sort of questionable to me. Really, you want weight low and center. It's going to improve your balance, your stability, and handling. And in this case, you know, the hub motor is in the back, which is understandable. That's sort of how it goes with hub motors versus a mid-drive. But then the battery weight, it's just way up high versus right here. And I don't know if they did that just to kind of make it look beautiful or what, but we'll go through that in a little bit. I'm going to hit some of the other specs. So it comes in white or black, which is wonderful. This is sort of a metallic, sparkly white. Can't really see it right now, but it looks awesome. And then they have black, and the black one looks fantastic because there's so many other black pieces of hardware here, whether it's the handlebar, the display, the battery casing, the seat. I just love it everywhere. The hub, the spokes, the rims. That black one is awesome. Okay, this is a hydroformed aluminum alloy frame, rigid fork, also aluminum alloy, 100mm hub spacing up front with a 9mm axle and a quick release skewer. We come around to the back here, 142mm hub spacing, and it's got these two like plates that sort of squeeze in, and you'll notice here there's a cutaway as well, so this frame could probably be used with a belt drive. And again, just so much custom work to get this set up, and it's sort of like a sliding dropout. Again, that would be necessary for a belt drive. I'm amazed that they've got the price where it is, considering how custom this feels. Then we've got a slap guard right here. I'm glad they did that. It's going to protect the paint. An 8-speed cassette, 11 to 32 tooth, which is pretty decent. Shimano Acera. It's not super high end, but it's a step up from the base level tourney. Got a barrel adjuster right here. Internal routing on the shifter cable, and then a 54 tooth chainring that to me is way too big. So it's really slows down your cadence. And I find myself riding in the lowest gear most of the time, definitely to start, because you're going 0 miles per hour, so you're like, and then it starts to go, and you're like, okay, but I'm just sticking to these few lower gears. I'm hardly ever getting up to that highest gear. And this is just a class 1 e-bike. It's not a speed pedelec or something. So I don't really understand why they did such a big chainring. I feel like that could be smaller. It's aluminum alloy versus steel. It's got that nice aluminum alloy bash guard, which would protect the bottom bracket and your pants or your dress or whatever as you're pedaling along. Standard 170mm crank arms, just kind of basic plastic pedals with rubber tread. At least they aren't steel. They're not going to get scratched up or rust or anything like that. And then the power cable for the motor is here on the left side, and it's tucked in really nicely between the disc brake rotor and that dropout plate. So I think that's great because it keeps the drivetrain side from getting too busy, and yet this is still really well protected. They've got a quick disconnect, so if you need to do some wheel maintenance or something, it's easy to do. We got the kickstand. Make sure you mount it like I have here, where it's sort of inside that plate. Otherwise, if it's too far out, you could kind of clip your heel on it as you pedal. And then I followed all the instructions. Their manual is really nice, by the way. Really good pictures. It's very intuitive. They even have like a video walkthrough. And then there's the torque sensor again with the multi-sensing to make it a little bit more smooth and intuitive. I mentioned the disc brakes before. Just get another close-up of those dual piston calipers. And then this extra hardware here, it would be used for if I actually had the fenders. And I love that they've included the reflectors and the reflective sidewalls on these. These tires here are CST 700/40C. The website said they should be 42. So maybe they should be a little fatter, and that might be US versus European spec again. But these are still, they're pretty decent. I'm not sure if they have puncture protection, but the tread is good. They're going to be fairly efficient and quiet. They're not so narrow that it's going to be super jarring or you're going to get pinch flats. And the saddle, also co-branded Urtopia. I think that's about it. I wanted to show you how the battery comes off. So here's the key right here, just kind of a basic TK, and then insert it right there and twist, and I'm going to hold the battery up because I really don't want this to fall out. There we go. It does that two-step thing, so it just clicks down. There was one time where I unlocked it and I feel like it came all the way out, so just be careful. We don't want to drop this or damage the frame down here. And then there's a little slide. Okay, here we go. 5 pounds. Really clean Phillian casing. This has Samsung cells inside from what Urtopia has explained to me. It's 36 volt, 9.8 amp hours, 352.8 watt hours. So this is on the smaller side, lower capacity for today's e-bikes. And at first I thought, oh, that's okay. It's such a, you know, lightweight, sort of streamlined, efficient e-bike. But then when I looked at the weight again, I was like, this is almost 50 pounds. Like, for such a low capacity battery, you know, you're still moving some heavy weight and you're turning a tall wheel back here. And you're going to be using the power a little bit more quickly if you had that 350 watt motor. You've got the lights and then the display that's got this eSIM thing. So I think they give you a year of eSIM, which allows you to do like over-the-air updates and GPS tracking and stuff. But I think it's sort of always on and listening. So that's going to be pulling the battery. You know, for that reason, I would make sure you're charging this pretty regularly. And definitely if you haven't ridden it for a while, nice charger, very solid feeling. I've seen this same charger from some other companies. This one's branded Urtopia. It's a 4 amp charger, which to me is overkill for a 352 watt battery. I mean, this is really going to fill it quickly. So I don't want to complain too much, but especially at this price, it's like, wow, they really gave you a quality charger. It's got a removable wall side, sort of a proprietary plug at the end. The battery can be charged on or off the bike, and ideally you want to keep that battery in a cool, dry location. Extreme heat is going to, you know, kind of degrade the cells more quickly. You won't get as many full charge cycles, and extreme cold is going to temporarily stunt your range. Here's the charging port. It's up high, it's not down here, so everything is nice. So it's the key and the charging point, they're both right there. So that's one of the benefits of having the battery up high. So this is the app, and it's pretty nice. You've got a bunch of information about like the wind, humidity, visibility, all this like environmental feedback, ride stats, some of the rides I've taken recently. There's a social feed, so you can see where people have been if they choose to share. This is the main screen that I end up using the most. You can also see a map of where you're at, and then some personal stats. Okay, so back to the shield in the middle. As I was setting this up, I had to connect to the display. So I downloaded the app, I created an account, and then it had a QR code like that showed up here on the screen, and it was supposed to scan. It did not scan for me. I was trying to get it lined up. I don't know if there was glare or whatnot, but I eventually just said like connect manually, and it connected super easy with Bluetooth. It was like, I should have just done that from the start. So if you get hung up on that step, just connect manually. I didn't have to type anything in. It was much easier than doing the QR code. And then after that, there was this, you know, update. So I was like, okay, I'm going to update it. And it did a little countdown, and then it said success, and then nothing happened. And so I waited and waited, and I was just like, nothing was happening. I was pressing the button over here and it wasn't waking up. And then I realized, okay, I have to like reconnect to the bike. So I press the Bluetooth here, and there's this
Bluetooth connected.
There we go. See, so now Bluetooth is connected. The display might come back on once I push power. So those are the steps. If you don't set up the fingerprint reader, you got to use the app to connect with Bluetooth and then do power. But that means this is always listening for Bluetooth. So back to, you know, kind of draining the battery slowly over time. It's like it's always on. And here we have speed. You can change it from miles to kilometers if you want, and Fahrenheit and Celsius. All that's here in the settings. Our battery infographic there. And then if we go left and right over here, we get some of the other display readouts here. Clock. So I'm pretty much just sticking here and using the app. Lights are very cool. So if I press the light button, boom, we got that headlight. Just love that thing. It's up high. It's fairly bright. It points where you steer. You're not going to have to worry about it getting blocked by the fender or that optional basket. Really nicely done. And then the rear light, we got 8 LEDs. It's fairly visible from the side. I mean, very, very well done. And it's supposed to be shining down on either side. They used to be like turn signals that would flash, but now I think they're always on. So if you look at my hand here, yeah, see that arrow? So those are supposed to shine down and paint that on the street. And I'm purposely filming right now at like sunset because it's starting to get dark. I mean, this is when a lot of people leave work and you want to be seen because it's sort of dusk. And they just aren't very bright. Like technically you will see them if it's really dark out, but I'm glad that the primary lights are very well done. So we can adjust the volume, vibration, because this does have haptics. I think it kind of vibrates here and you feel it through the handlebar. Change the sounds. I think you're supposed to be able to use this as like a Bluetooth speaker. And then there's the eSIM, which I mentioned. It's going to give me a year for free, and then you might have to start paying on that. So back to the button pad itself. Once the bike is activated, you can change the displays left and right. You can press the middle button for this nice like bell. It's cute. And then up or down is just going to change the assist level. So we'll go from 0 to 1, 2, 3. Beautiful, right? We can't go any higher. It doesn't circle around. You just got to go back all the way down. So this is a good chance to hop on the bike and go for a ride. Okay, I'll lean the bike towards me, get a leg over. I'm in the highest level of assist, and it kicks right in. Very quiet. Very stable too. Yeah, it's an efficient city bike, right? And I'm glad I'm in a place that's got smooth streets, since there's no suspension here and it's an aluminum frame. You know, this is still the first gear, and I'm going like 11 miles per hour. So now let's go ahead and shift up. Second gear, third gear, fourth gear, right? That feels pretty good. Let's take it up to the highest gear here, 8. Look at that. Really, really slow, but smooth. 3 is like my favorite assist level on this bike because you just don't hear the noise and you get that extra oomph for a bike that's kind of, you know, again, it's geared a little bit high. And this is just a guess, but if this bike had the fenders and they are indeed plastic, you might notice some rattling and stuff if you're going over cracks and sidewalks too. Fairly comfortable body position here because of that swept back handlebar. You can spot traffic and my back won't get too stiff. Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
Hey, did a brake test there. Hey, that was awesome. You know, starting on this bike, it really picks up. It's got like a multi-sensor, so you kind of...
Oh, that's electric.
This is electric, yeah. Look at, they got the little hub motor and the lights and stuff.
Wow.
Kind of fancy. You want to take it for a spin?
No. Let me show you mine.
Oh, yeah. Can I? Wow, you have the Elliptigo.
Yeah.
Oh, these are so cool.
I was a runner for many years.
Uh-huh.
And my just lower back problems, so I couldn't take that pounding anymore. So about,
yeah.
I wore out the track.
Jeez.
I just had I'm on it about 45 minutes, 5-6 days a week.
You use it?
Yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Well, that is great. And I know what you mean. Sometimes, like, if I'm running and then my knees or, you know, there's just that pounding.
Well, I'm 74.
Well,
so I've been running for 40 years. So
you're doing great, man. It's starting to get darker now, and you can really see that headlight does a great job. Start to see that right arrow, it's white, and then the left arrow is kind of a orange. Maybe not quite as bright, but we're getting there. Okay, it's really starting to get dark now, kind of the sunset. And I realized that this display is pretty bright, and I don't know if that could be turned down. I think it's just sort of always on. And for some people, that could kind of ruin your night vision a little bit or feel a bit distracting. I have to admit, it's fairly bright. The headlight's working great. You can see it shining. It's keeping me seen, but it's definitely the kind of light that also lights your path up. And now I can see some of those side arrows a little bit better. The one on the left, the orange one, it doesn't work quite as well. It's not as bright. And that's too bad because, you know, if I'm riding next to the sidewalk in a bike lane, I feel like that's the one that I would want to light up more. car because cars would be passing me on the left. And it ramps up really smoothly. There's a nice incentive for me to pedal and to contribute because it is a torque sensor. With cadence sensors, it's just listening to those crank arms. Like, are they moving? Yes, go. If they're not moving, it cuts off. So it's just an on-off kind of thing versus this dynamic, smooth assistance here. Well, guys, that is the Urtopia Chord. Urban Utopia chord, like a musical combination of notes. Pretty cool. I always appreciate when a company does something special and puts so much time and energy into the details. It feels like they're really going for it, you know, having multiple colors, multiple frame sizes, and now multiple models. This one being $2,000 is very impressive. I've got all the specs back at ElectricBikeReview.com. I measured them by hand and spent a good amount of time with this bike. It did take longer than expected to assemble this, between, you know, figuring out sort of the stem and the handlebar and then actually mounting this display. I had to screw it on from the bottom, and using the short end of like an Allen key, it just took a long time to get that lined up. And then, you know, getting this all set up and running the wire through, I didn't even have to install the fenders. But keep that in mind. You buy a bike online like this, maybe you can work with a local shop and pay them for help, but there's just a little bit of extra, you know, cardboard you got to recycle and stuff. All in all, very impressive, and it's potentially a great commuter if you add that rack and the lock and stuff. I love that they're selling this globally. Back at the site, I have a compare tool as well, so you could look at the carbon one and this one and some of the other city bikes and just try to get some feedback about the accessories and what other, you know, owners are experiencing here. Urtopia gave me this bike, and I'm going to let my mom ride it for a little while, see if anything else pops up, and then I'm eventually going to donate it. So I'm trying to be really objective here and transparent with you guys. I love you. I hope you have fun out there. Ride safe. We'll see you next time.